Hello and Namaste. Welcome to video 6 in this series on our Vedic and Indic civilization. Enjoy! The following are topics in this series, but the focus of our presentation today is the role of the feminine in Bharat's history. In this presentation, we'll take a brief look at the role of first our Devis, secondly our learned women, and finally the role of the ordinary women in Bharat. Before we explore the role of our Devis, let's briefly anchor ourselves on the concept of Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma, loosely called Hinduism, means the eternal law. In Sanatan Dharma, we don't have the concept of God and goddesses. These are terms exported from Western religions. What we do have is the concept of Para Brahman. According to Adi Shankara, there's only one Para, Supreme Brahman, and all the other deities are its many manifestations. It represents the highest consciousness, or as some of you may know it, as the ultimate truth or the ultimate reality. Parameshwar, Bhagwan, Paramatma, Ishwar are also used in this context. The next modal aspect is the Trimurti or the Tridevi. They're part of the Parabrahma. The Tridevi, the feminine aspects, have equal importance as the Trimurti, the masculine aspects, and function as their consorts. Brahma is the creator. He needs Sarasvati Devi, the deity of knowledge, to create. Vishnu is the preserver. He needs Lakshmi Devi, the deity of wealth and prosperity. Shivji is the destroyer and the recreator, and he needs Parvati or Durga or Kalima. They're all the Adi Shakti avatars for power. The Tridevi are the various manifestations of the feminine, the Shakti. The next modal layer or the modal aspect is the many incarnations and manifestations of our Devas and Devis. We all have our favorites: Sitama, Ganesha, Hanumanji, Sri Ram, Baby Krishna, and the list goes on. There are also the many avatars, as mentioned earlier, where our Devas and Devis come to earth as human beings to help us humans in our struggle towards enlightenment and salvation, moksha. As we've seen, in Sanatan Dharma, our deities play as equally an important role as our devas. So here are some examples of strong devis, the manifestation of the feminine, who are the source of power. Durga Ma is perhaps one of the most well-known manifestations of Shakti. She is worshipped during the festivals of Navratri, one of the most important festivals. Durga Ma is also known as the slayer of the Mahisasur, one of the most powerful demons. She is also the representation of feminine power in the universe. She is shown riding a lion or a tiger and holding the Trishul or her trident. She is also portrayed with multiple hands and accompanied by the body of the Mahisasur being stabbed by her Trishul. Lakshmi Devi is the famous deity of wealth, abundance and fertility. She is worshipped during the festival of Deepavali or the festival of light. She is the wife of Sri Vishnu and reincarnates alongside her consort on earth. She She does not only represent material wealth, but she also represents glory, joy, and honor. Then there's Saraswati Ma. She's the deity of wisdom, music, and learning. She's the wife of Brahma. She's shown with 4 hands, 2 of which hold the veena, a musical instrument. Saraswati Puja is observed on the day of Basant Panchami, the first day of spring. Devotees wake up early in the morning and pay homage at her temples, hoping to be blessed with wisdom and knowledge. Then there's the fierce Kali Ma, the representation of Shakti. She is also known as the destroyer, or the one who liberates the soul and provides moksha, enlightenment. Kali Ma was born to defeat the demon Raktabich, who it was believed could create new powerful demons from every drop of his blood that touched the ground. Thus Kali Ma is seen as fierce and angry, with a garland of skulls around her neck, a knife and a ball in her hands. Let's now turn our attention to the golden era of ancient India, of ancient Bharat, and explore the role of women. In the Vedic period, many rishis were actually women. They were called rishikas. Indeed, several of them authored many of the shlokas in the Vedas. There's a documented list of women rishikas who contributed to the Rig Veda, and their contributions were indeed significant. 27 names were mentioned. They were referred to as Brahma Vadinis. Some names mentioned are hereby listed. In the Vedic period, women were free to enter into brahmacharya just as men, and became sannyasins. In the Mahabharata, many such sannyasins are mentioned. Later, women in ancient Bharat, like Maitreyi and Gargi, amongst others, participated in spiritual debates of our ancient civilization. Shrutavati, the daughter of Rishi Bhardwaj, remained a brahmacharini all her life and entered into deep study of the Vedas. Srimati led a similar life. Sulabha was an authority on the Vedas and debated on the topic with King Janaka. Married women were also acknowledged authorities on the Vedas. There are many such examples. Men and women were granted equal rights in such matters. The pre-medieval era, the Golden Age. As we've seen in previous slides, Bharat had many learned ladies in the Vedic times, and in the ancient times. They were equals and contributed significantly. From ancient texts we also learn about female teachers called Upadaya or Upadayis. King Ashoka's daughter, for instance, who preached Buddhism. From Jain's texts we learn about Princess Janti, who devoted her life to the study of Jainism and philosophy. Often Buddhist monks, nuns, composed hymns. Women wrote plays and verses in Sanskrit and excelled in music, painting, and fine arts. The intent here is not to suggest that everything was perfect in one era and everything evil in another, but broadly speaking, here at a societal level versus at an individual level, the fact remains that women enjoyed an important and critical role in society. There were many instances of women rulers and administrators, queens, warriors, administrators in Kashmir, in the north, in the south, in Bharat as a whole. Bharat, it seems, was going for its golden era. And I've listed a few examples of the queens and their names and their region here. Then came the medieval ages, 500 AD onward. Those were not lucky days. It was a dark period for the Indian women. Their status deteriorated considerably. Foreign conquerors invaded India. They brought with them their own culture, where woman was the sole property of her father, brother, or husband. The decline in women's status and freedom was sharp. Women had to be shielded from a foreign and barbaric mentality towards women. Having a daughter meant more vigilance, pain due to the brutalities, perhaps even a burden. Many societal changes occurred, including women not being allowed formal education. There are some exceptions, however, like Maharani Tarabai, who led the Maratha Empire from the front through deep crisis and won. The status of women in southern India was slightly better. Despite such radical changes, one thing fortunately did not change. That's the importance of ordinary women in the transfer of ancient knowledge from one generation to the next. Last but not least, let's look at the role of the ordinary Indian woman throughout Bharat's history. Our Rishikas and Sannyasins no doubt played a foundational role in ancient times. In my mind, our ordinary Indian women played a fundamental role, perhaps the most fundamental part. Their role as guardians, preservers, and keepers of our spiritual and cultural practices, unbroken up to now and throughout history, was subtle yet fundamental. They played a highly significant part in the transfer of our ancient knowledge, seamlessly weaving those practices in daily lives and family routines. They would know of specific diets or herbal medicine to cure minor ailments. They prepared daily meals, perhaps unknowingly but exactly as prescribed by our ancient text. Delicious mix of multiple spices and herbs had multiple health benefits. Dahi as probiotics balanced the spicy meals. Dudh haldi, turmeric latte for its anti-inflammatory and other benefits, all tastily prepared. Food as a medicine, good for the body and the mind. A range of fantastic and delectable food for health, and not to forget the yoga exercises, all holistically integrated in one's daily life. Those practices ensured the smooth transfer of the wealth of ancient Ayurvedic and Vedic practices from one generation to the next. Mothers practiced fasting on certain days or on certain occasions, today called intermittent fasting. One would learn to chant mantras from one's mother from childhood. The most internationally renowned mathematician that India has ever produced learned mantras, the Vedas, etc. from his mother, and he was inspired by his goddess Numagari, who he attributes his mathematical knowledge and his famous mathematical algorithms to. The greatest inspiration in his life were none other than his mother and his goddess. I would go as far as to say that mothers, ordinary women, were most probably the greatest saviors of our Dharma. I'll end here with the following words. Educate a woman, and you educate and lift up a whole new generation. Thank you and namaste.